Eggs. What does an egg mean? What does it represent? Why should you care? You care because of the egg in Deltarune. You care because the egg isn't too important, but it's also not too unimportant. Hi, welcome to Egg Theory. That's kind of general, isn't it? Hi, welcome to Rotten Egg Theory and Nest Theory. I say two theories, but really, they're more like two sides of the same theory. The good version and the bad version. They are, quite plainly, just the theories I have for what's up with the eggs. As the general disclaimer is with most Deltarune theories at this point, it's just a theory for the fun of it. We can dissect things as much as we want, but at the end of the day, there's only 2/7 at best of the information on the game generously handed to us, and 2 hardly makes a pattern. I don't really expect this theory to be true as much as I hope to be in the right vein of thinking. Before we get into the theories, let's discuss what we know about the eggs. The eggs are, at this point, 2 items that can be found in Deltarune, one in Chapter 1 and one in Chapter 2. They are both found in rooms in between, meaning that you have to go back and forth between 2 rooms in the game until you end up in a secret room by chance. Both eggs are found in the Dark World, behind a tree, and both times the tree is the same species as one that is present in the Card Kingdom. Whether this is an intentional detail or just a tree that they'd already made and they just saw no reason to make a second one for the second chapter, who knows. Both times there is said to be a man behind the tree, and from the man, Chris is given the egg. At this point, we don't know who the man who gives Chris the egg is. I've seen a lot of people theorize it's Gaster, some people theorize it's the Knight, who could be Gaster, but it could also just be somebody that we haven't met yet. Or somebody that we have met, but it'll be revealed later. Who knows, really. The egg is one of only 2 items, as far as I'm aware, that does not change its form between the light and dark worlds, the other being your cell phone. Although, in the dark world, the phone no longer works and just plays garbage noise. At this point, the egg only has one use per chapter. In Chapter 1, the egg can be placed into Asgore's fridge. In Chapter 2, you can put the egg in with the rest of the eggs in Sand's store. You can keep track of how many eggs you have found by going to the school in Chapter 2 and interacting with Temmie's egg. The descriptions of these eggs states that they are not too important, but also not too unimportant. This makes theorizing about them tricky as you have to try and decide what isn't too important and what isn't too unimportant to be relevant to the game. In the Spamton sweepstakes, there is also a mention of a special white egg, presumably the same or similar to the eggs we're discussing, that Noelle got in her Cat Pedders 2 game, which, after caring for, left home due to happiness. Admittedly, other than finding ways this could be interpreted as a metaphor for what happened to Des or something, I'm not sure what to make of this. If you want a deeper dive into what we know about these eggs, check out HalfBreadChaos video on it. I'll link it below. They have a lot of interesting stuff to say and go into a lot more detail about how the eggs work and the various dialogue and code-related aspects around them. And that's really all we know about the eggs. You can see why this makes theorizing about the eggs hard, as it's difficult to do more than take a shot in the dark. So that's what I'm doing anyway. Here's my 2 pretty long shots in the darkness about Deltarune's future. Let's start with Rotten Egg Theory. The eggs, as they currently are, have been placed in locations where they will not immediately be noticed by people, and thus will likely be able to remain where they've been placed for the entire week that Deltarune is supposed to go through. And what do eggs do? They hatch. The eggs are heavily associated with the Knight, as in Wingdings, egg is spelled with symbols pointing left, then up twice, which is the way that the Knight in chess can move. The goal of the Knight at this point seems to possibly be to bring about the roaring. So it would stand to reason that the eggs would then be used to further that goal. So, when the roaring happens, I posit that the eggs hatch into pools of darkness that overtake the area they're in and make that place, as well as anybody there, inaccessible to Chris to interact with. For something that hatches, it might make more sense for a being to come out of it. Say, the Titans that have been mentioned. However, that seems too important of a role for the eggs, and it feels too significant of a thing that would alter the ending of the game. The game is supposed to have one-ish ending, and the unimportant point of the egg makes me hesitant to give them too much power. Admittedly, in the Snowgrave route, we do see that there can be fairly big changes made to a chapter while still having the same ending. but I'm still trying to keep it relatively small, especially because this is dealing with either finale or pre-finale kind of things. I feel like interactions with characters is a small enough aspect to be deemed unimportant, but also big enough for a player's experience with the game and the world to be deemed important. So, by bringing the eggs out and placing them around, you would be barring off the world and those characters. It would be sort of like a "that's what you get for digging into things better left untouched" sort of message, which, quite frankly, I don't like much. Of the two theories, this one is the more likely because of how night associated the eggs are, but it still doesn't sit well with me. This feels like punishment for digging into the game like that, and while I don't think it's completely outside of the question for Toby to do, to me it'd be making it analogous to a No Mercy run. For a No Mercy run in Undertale to be lacking in as much character interaction as the other routes makes sense. As the player, you went out of your way to literally remove the characters from the world. For the eggs in Deltarune, however, you're just exploring and finding cool things that are openly hinted at in the game itself. Now to the other side of the coin. What if the eggs are good? Say hi to nest theory. Instead of hatching during the roaring, the eggs will instead create the locations they're in into safe places. Eggs have shells that protect what's inside of them, and that's what the locations will then do for those who are in those places. My sister has posited, taking this theory just a hair further, that the eggs are actually what makes a space in between, well, in between, and thus all the locations with eggs will become in between and out of reach of anything trying to hurt them. Instead of closing off character interactions, Nest's theory would allow the player and Chris to interact with the characters who managed to make it to one of those safe places, or were there when the roaring happened. Maybe it'd even be possible to bring people to these little nests of safety, though that feels just a little too good to be true. And that's that on that. Anyway, let me know what you think of these theories. Are they a little out there and founded on very little evidence? Absolutely. Do I like them anyway and will continue to believe in them until we learn more about the eggs? Hell yeah. What about you? Do you have a theory on the eggs? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious to hear what others think. And thank you for watching my video.